My wife looked at me, her eyes distant, and said she needed space. 7 years of building a life together, watching it crumble because of an accusation that, for a full year, made everyone look at me like I was a monster. That was the real cost of Victor's treachery, more than the millions in legal fees or the destruction of my professional reputation. It was the moment I realized just how alone I was, how quickly everything could unravel. It all started on a Wednesday morning. I remember it vividly. I was swiping into Vanguard Tech Solutions at 7:51 a.m., nursing a gas station coffee I'd never get to finish. 8 years I'd poured into that company, literally building their entire predictive analytics platform from the ground up. 8 years of turning down lucrative offers because I genuinely believed in what we were creating. And in a few minutes, I was about to get fired before I even sat down at my desk. Spoiler alert, it didn't go the way they planned. Ethan, a 40-year-old male, was the director of systems architecture. Sounds fancy, right? In reality, it meant I was the guy who actually built things, while the executives collected fat bonuses for my work. Our company's main product, Vanguard, was an analytics engine that ran entirely on my proprietary software library. See, back in 2016, before I even joined Vanguard, I'd spent 3 years developing a core prediction framework on my own time. I called it Kelly Analytics Core, and I filed the intellectual property under my own LLC. When Vanguard recruited me, I negotiated a licensing arrangement, they got to use my framework, and I got equity and a director title. My employment agreement, Section 7.3 to be precise, some boring legal stuff that would become very interesting later, specifically preserved my ownership of anything I'd created pre-employment, plus anything I developed on my personal equipment outside of business hours. Victor, our CEO, had me scheduled for a 7:55 a.m. meeting. The calendar invite simply said strategy discussion. When I walked into his corner office, there were 2 chairs in front of his desk. One was already occupied by Sarah from HR. Everyone knew Sarah only showed up for terminations. Victor didn't stand, didn't shake my hand. He just waved at the empty chair like I was there to interview for a job I already had. Ethan, he said, doing that finger steeple thing like he was in a Bond movie, I need you to take on a special project. Here we go. My niece, Chloe, just joined us. She graduated from the University of Arizona last spring with a degree in communications. Very bright. The board believed she'd be perfect to lead our innovation initiatives going forward. I'd already seen this girl's LinkedIn profile. Ring light selfie, a frozen yogurt shop listed as her most recent job, and an about section that read synergizing creative energy. 800 connections, 0 qualifications. I'd like you to train her, Victor continued. Show her the Vanguard architecture. Walk her through our core systems. Maybe start with some foundational concepts, data structures, query optimization, that sort of thing. Vanguard was our cash machine. Our entire revenue stream depended on my Kelly Analytics Core library running under the hood. If it broke, I was the person everyone called, because nobody else truly understood the framework I'd built. And this guy wanted me to teach a communications major what a database index was? Someone whose greatest technical achievement was probably figuring out how to add a filter to her Instagram stories? No, I said. Victor blinked. He probably wasn't expecting it that fast. I'm running the Cedar Creek financial migration. $47 million contract. 3 weeks to deadline. Your niece can shadow someone from training. His jaw did that tightening thing that guys with too much power think looks intimidating. This is the priority now. Chloe is family. She represents the future of this company. I didn't lean forward. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. Cedar Creek is the priority. If that migration fails, penalty clauses will cost more than Chloe's apartment. I'm not babysitting anyone until it's done. His face went red. The exact shade of a guy who's never heard the word no from an employee. Are you refusing a direct request from your CEO? I'm telling you what's realistic. Vanguard is too complex to be a training exercise for someone who doesn't know what a server is. But hey, feel free to explain that to Cedar Creek when their deadline slips. He looked at Sarah. She looked at her folder. Then he said the words that changed everything. Ethan, your insubordination and failure to align with company priorities has made your position untenable. You're terminated. Effective immediately. Sarah will escort you to collect your personal belongings. You have 20 minutes. It was 8:03 a.m. I remember the clock on his wall exactly. I stood up, buttoned my jacket, almost smiled. All right, then. I gave him nothing but a flat stare that said I knew something he didn't. Because I did. And Ethan, he called out as I reached the door. The employment agreement you signed includes comprehensive IP assignment and non-compete clauses. Our legal team will be in touch if you violate either one. I can ruin your life in one day. You're beneath me. Don't forget that. I turned back just enough for eye contact. Yeah, Victor. I remember exactly what I signed. Do you? His smug expression flickered. He had no idea what that meant, but he would. My Kelly Analytics core library, the engine that powered everything Vanguard did, had built-in license verification. Standard stuff for proprietary software. It checked in with my licensing server every 72 hours. If the license was valid, everything ran fine. If not, the system entered read-only mode. Safe, non-destructive, fully automatic. No kill switch, no sabotage, just compliance behavior I'd baked in years before I ever met Victor. And the license was tied to my continued employment at Vanguard, per the agreement they'd signed but apparently never read carefully. The clock was already ticking. He just didn't know it yet. Sarah walked me to my office in silence. She'd been with Vanguard for 19 years and had the kind of permanent exhaustion in her eyes that comes from watching too many good people get screwed by corporate politics. She didn't offer much in the way of advice or sympathy. Just blinked twice like she wanted to say something, then whispered, "Request your personnel file today. In writing. Make sure you have your own copy of Section 7.3. Smart woman. Scared, but smart. I started packing personal stuff, family photos, certification plaques. Before I could finish, Chloe showed up in the doorway, filming me like I was a shoplifter. I'm documenting this for HR records. She stepped closer, phone raised. Uncle Victor warned me about people like you. Old guard fighting change. She paused, a smug smile playing on her lips. Congratulations on your new position. It's not a position. It's a leadership role, she said, exactly like Victor would. I'm going to modernize everything. Bring some real innovation. Can't wait to see how that works out for you. Just then, Brenda appeared behind her. An HR coordinator, 57, been there forever. Ms. Chloe. Employees being separated are entitled to privacy during exit. Policy 7.4.2. Chloe didn't even look at her. I'm head of innovation. I decide policy now. No, you don't. Perhaps you'd like to wait in your new office? The one Mr. Ethan's team spent 3 years earning through actual work. Chloe's face flushed. You're nothing. Both of you are nothing. I will tell my uncle. Please do tell your uncle, Brenda said, her voice dripping sarcasm. I've been trying to get fired for 6 years. The severance at my level is excellent. Chloe huffed off. Brenda watched her go, then turned to me, her voice low. Your employment agreement from 2016 is filed differently than the standard template. Section 7.3. You should have your lawyer review it carefully. She paused. I can't say more than that. She walked away. I finished packing and headed for the elevator. The lobby was nearly empty at 8:40 a.m. A security guard was stationed by the door. He'd worked the building for 12 years, kept meticulous incident logs of everyone who came and went. "Sorry to see you go, Mr. Ethan," he said as I approached. "Thanks," I replied. He nodded. "Logs are detailed as always. Standard procedure, that's all. Professional, procedural, exactly what I needed." I walked out into the Tucson morning heat. My phone was already buzzing. A text from my brother, Caleb. Asterisk heard through the grapevine. Someone at Vanguard called someone at my firm asking about employment law. Meet me at the office. Bring your copies of everything, asterisk. I drove straight to his law firm. By 9:30 a.m., we were in his conference room, papers spread across the table, his paralegal already pulling relevant case law. "Okay," Caleb said, flipping through a document. "Walk me through the timeline again." I laid it out clean. Quick recap: I own the Core Framework, LLC, 2014. Vanguard only licensed it, 2016. Section 7.3 backs that up. The code checks the license every 72 hours. Next check is Friday at 6 a.m. Once I was terminated, the license doesn't qualify, so it'll lock into read-only automatically. Caleb went quiet. Then he started laughing. The kind of laugh lawyers do when they realize they're holding a royal flush. They fired you without checking who owns the Core Framework to make room for a communications major? He shook his head. We need to document everything. Get ahead of this. Already done. Original development logs from 2013 to 2015, all time-stamped. LLC formation docs from 2014. Licensing agreement from 2016 with their signatures. Boring paranoia that happens to hold up in court. Good man. He looked at me seriously. And you haven't touched anything since termination? No logging in. No revoking keys manually. Nothing. Your exact advice, actually. Don't take any active step. Let the system do what it was designed to do. Perfect. This is going to get ugly. Victor doesn't seem like the type to go down quietly. He had no idea how right he was. The rest of that day and Thursday after my termination were almost peaceful. I updated my resume, fielded calls from recruiters who'd somehow already heard the news, had dinner with Olivia, who was supportive but worried about our finances. I even slept better than I had in months, which probably should have worried me. Then Friday morning happened. At 6:17 a.m., my phone started blowing up. Texts from former colleagues forwarding screenshots of system error messages. Missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. Someone from my old team sent me a photo of their monitor, license verification failed. System entering compliance mode. Contact system administrator for resolution. Caleb called at 6:23. Vanguard's counsel just called our firm looking for you. They want to talk urgently. My inbox filled with forwarded emails. Cedar Creek Financial's IT director demanding answers. 2 other clients issuing formal cure notices, giving Vanguard 48 hours to restore service or face breach claims. LinkedIn recruiters who'd ignored me for years suddenly wanted to connect. The read-only mode meant a complete operational lockdown. Every client, every user, every transaction, frozen behind that single error message. For about 3 hours, I felt vindicated. Then the second shoe dropped. At 9:45 a.m., 2 Tucson PD detectives showed up at my door. They asked if I had time to answer some questions. They didn't smile when they asked. "Mr. Ethan, we've received a complaint from Vanguard Tech Solutions, specifically from an employee named Chloe. She's alleging that you made inappropriate comments to her on Wednesday morning, that you cornered her in your office and made unwanted advances." Everything stopped. "That's completely false," I said, my voice flat. "She came to my office uninvited. She was recording me on her phone. Brenda from HR was right there in the doorway. I never touched her. I never said anything inappropriate. This is retaliation for the licensing situation. She's provided a written statement. She claims you told her she looked good in that dress. That you suggested she could advance faster if she was friendly with the right people. That you blocked the doorway when she tried to leave. None of it happened. None of it. Chloe had been in my office for maybe 90 seconds, during which she threatened me while recording. Brenda had witnessed the entire thing. The recording from Chloe's own phone would show exactly what happened. I took a deep breath. Detectives, I want to cooperate fully, but I want my attorney present. My brother's a lawyer. I'll have him contact you within the hour. And you should know, the timing here isn't coincidental. I just crippled their entire operation legally. This is their response. They exchanged looks. That's your right, Mr. Ethan, but understand these allegations are serious. If there's a pattern here, things could escalate quickly. There's no pattern because there's nothing to find. Pull Brenda's statement. Pull Chloe's phone footage. You'll see exactly what happened. After they left, I called Caleb. Then I sat in my kitchen for 15 minutes, figuring out how to call my wife. She was across town helping her dad after another hospital trip, and I didn't want her to hear this from anyone else. Olivia answered on the second ring. Ethan, I just got the strangest call from someone at your old company. They said there are allegations against you, sexual harassment. They said a young woman filed a complaint. What's going on? I explained everything, the termination, the licensing issue, the timing of Chloe's accusation, how it didn't make any sense, how it had to be retaliation, how there were witnesses and recordings that would prove my innocence. Silence on the line. Olivia, I know this is a lot. I need some time to think, Ethan. This is a lot to process. You're telling me you got fired, there's some kind of licensing dispute, and now there's a harassment complaint all in the same week? You know I'm not feeling well. Her voice wavered. You believe me, right? You know I would never do something like that. Olivia, we've been together for 7 years. You know who I am. More silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Distant. Like she was already somewhere else. I don't know what I believe right now. I'm going to stay at my sister's for a few days. I think we both need space to figure this out. She hung up. I stared at my phone. 7 years together. 7 years of building a life. And she needed space to figure out if I was capable of assault. Got it. Message received loud and clear. Within a week, the fallout was everywhere. Friends stopped returning calls. Neighbors avoided eye contact at the mailbox. Olivia's sister posted something vague on social media about believing women. 47 likes. An anonymous note appeared in my mailbox, "We know what you did." A recruiter who'd been hot on me went cold overnight. Another company fingerprinted me like I was applying for parole. Vanguard floated performance issues to a client contact, no email, just a phone call. That's how cowards operate. And Chloe? Thriving. Someone forwarded me her Instagram day in my life as head of innovation video. While half the engineering team scrambled to explain the system outage and Cedar Creek Financial threatened to sue, there was ring light footage of her leading meetings. Comments calling her inspiring and boss babe energy. Then there was Blake. 3 years on my team, always angling for my job. The day after the accusation went public, he started making moves, volunteering to stabilize Cedar Creek, reassuring clients about leadership transitions, CCing Victor on everything. He even started a rumor I'd stolen company data during my exit, saying he'd seen something when I was packing. Complete garbage, but it gave Victor's story legs. Blake got promoted to interim director 2 weeks later. Filed that one away for later. Caleb came over every night with takeout and legal strategy sessions. "This is coordinated," he said, spreading documents across my kitchen table on day 3. "The timing is too perfect. You get fired Wednesday. The system locks Friday. The accusation surfaces Friday morning." Before you can even think about fighting back on the licensing issue, Victor needed something to discredit you before you could leverage your position. Can you prove that? Not yet. But I'm going to. First thing Monday, we're filing a wrongful termination claim. Then we add that they told people you were a predator, that they tried to poison your client relationships. We're going to subpoena every email, every text, every calendar entry related to your termination and Chloe's accusation. What about the criminal investigation? The detectives will do their job, but this is a he said, she said, with no physical evidence and no witnesses who support her version. Except there was a witness. You said Brenda was there and Chloe was recording on her phone, which means her video shows nothing happened. Exactly. Either Chloe deleted it, which is destruction of evidence, or she kept it, which proves you're innocent. Caleb leaned forward. Once we file and get discovery going, we're subpoenaing that video. And Brenda? She's scared. Protecting her pension. But once she's compelled under oath, I'm betting she tells the truth. I looked at my brother. Same stubborn jaw as our dad. Same refusal to back down from a fight. Same inability to let injustice slide. Caleb, this could drag on for months, years. It's going to cost a fortune. Good thing your framework is worth a fortune. We'll figure out the money. He paused. How are you holding up with Olivia? She made her choice. I'm not chasing anyone who needs to figure out if I'm a predator. The next 3 months were the hardest of my life, but I wasn't breaking. The criminal investigation moved like wet concrete. The detectives disappeared for 2 weeks, then came back with more requests for interviews, documents, and timelines, while my 5-figure retainer ate my savings and court dates kept getting punted. They interviewed Brenda twice, and her story never changed. They interviewed Sarah, too, except she'd been transferred to Flagstaff right after I was fired. Convenient. Then they asked for Chloe's phone and the video. Vanguard claimed it was accidentally deleted during an update. Caleb pushed for forensics. Vanguard's lawyers fought it, and the phone was suddenly lost during an office move. Sure. Convenient. Real convenient. For 2 months, I lived in limbo. Every phone call could be an arrest. Every email could be a warrant. Caleb kept telling me the lack of evidence was actually good news. But try explaining that to your anxiety at 3 a.m. They found no corroborating evidence, no witnesses who supported Chloe's claims, and no physical evidence of any kind. What they did find was a lot of inconsistencies in Chloe's timeline and a witness who contradicted everything she said. The Pima County District Attorney declined to file charges in late September. No press release, no public clearing of my name, just a letter that said, insufficient evidence to proceed. Like 4 months of my life being destroyed was just a paperwork issue. By then, some damage was already done. Not to me, to them. Olivia filed for legal separation in August. She said she couldn't handle the stress. She said she needed to protect herself. She said she still wasn't sure what to believe and she couldn't build a life on uncertainty. Found out later she'd moved money from our joint account into her own before filing. Cleaned out about 60 grand to protect herself while I was fighting criminal allegations. Her lawyer's advice, apparently. Cool. 7 years together, and she couldn't figure out if I was a predator. Thanks for that vote of confidence. I signed the papers without arguing. Didn't beg. Didn't negotiate. She wanted out. Doors right there. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment. Caleb helped me carry boxes. Neither of us talked about how the place felt. It felt fine. Freedom has a certain vibe to it. But the civil case was a different story. This is where it gets good. Caleb filed the wrongful termination lawsuit in late July. Wrongful termination in violation of implied contract. They told people I was a predator. Vanguard's HR had communicated the harassment allegation to my wife, to at least 2 clients who'd asked about my departure, and internally to staff who didn't need to know. They tried to poison my client relationships. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. We named Vanguard Tech Solutions Incorporated, Victor individually, and Chloe individually as defendants. They tried to slow-walk discovery until the judge threatened sanctions. Their outside counsel wasn't an idiot. He didn't threaten, didn't yell, just buried us in motions and let the clock do the violence. We filed Friday. They responded on day 29 at 11:58 p.m. because corporate lawyers are allergic to daylight. Then they dumped thousands of pages on us at once as a single PDF with no OCR, hoping we'd miss something in the volume. Caleb's paralegal basically became a war crime investigator. She sorted everything into categories: damning, very damning, holy heck damning. We didn't miss anything. I remember the exact moment Caleb called me. Tuesday, October 14th, 3:47 p.m. Ethan, get to my office now. You need to see this. I was there in 20 minutes. Caleb was waiting with a stack of printouts and an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Something between fury and grim satisfaction. We found it, he said. The smoking gun. Actually, multiple smoking guns. He handed me the first document, a text thread between Victor and Chloe, timestamped the morning I was fired. Wednesday, 7:23 a.m. 32 minutes before my meeting. Victor, remember what we discussed? Ethan is going to refuse. When he does, I'll terminate him immediately. Your job is to document the exit. Be visible near his office. Record it. We need footage of him being removed cleanly in case he claims wrongful termination. Then Caleb slid the second document over. Another text chain from Friday morning, right after the system lockdown. Victor, 6:34 a.m. This is worse than I thought. The whole system is locked. Legal says we might not have the licensing rights we assumed. We need leverage. Call our outside attorney, Chloe, 6:41 a.m. Uncle Victor. I don't know if I can do this. What if they find out? What if I get in trouble? Victor, 6:43 a.m. Do you want to lose everything? The car, the apartment, your position? I've fixed every mess you've ever made. Don't make me regret it. He'll coach you. Follow the script, Chloe, 6:52 a.m. Okay, I'll call him. Third, a calendar invite, Friday, 7:30 a.m. Call with outside counsel, complaint preparation. Chloe plus Vanguard's litigation attorney. 90 minutes. And then the stack. More texts of Victor leaning on Chloe for days, her wavering, then folding. Calendar entries lining up coaching sessions before she filed anything. HR notes from Brenda raising concerns, overruled by Victor. And a memo from the company's general counsel warning the termination could trigger licensing issues, sent the day before he fired me. He'd ignored it. People knew Victor was reckless. They also knew he controlled bonuses, promotions, and layoffs, so they stayed quiet. The Kelly Analytics core framework wasn't understood company-wide. It was understood by me and 3 engineers who'd been coasting for years. Account managers were great at client schmoozing. They had no clue what ran under the hood. That's how it worked. She didn't want to do it, Caleb said. Victor pushed her into it. He needed something to discredit you before you could fight back on the licensing issue. Used his own niece as a weapon. I stared at the documents. All those months of people looking at me like I was a predator. My wife bailing, friends disappearing, my reputation destroyed. And here was the proof it was all manufactured. Let's destroy them. First, we file an amended complaint adding fraud and civil conspiracy. Second, we depose Chloe separately from Victor. Once she's under oath without her uncle in the room, without his lawyers controlling the conversation, I'm betting she folds. Caleb paused. Third, we reach out to Brenda again. She's been keeping detailed records of everything, plus a lot more. She's got documentation of everything strange that happened at Vanguard after your termination. Like what? Like Victor's attempts to hire outside contractors to work around the licensing lockout. Like expense reports for security consultants who were supposed to reverse engineer your framework. He tried to crack my software. He tried to crack your software, the one he doesn't legally have rights to modify, which means we can add breach of license and potentially computer fraud allegations to the list. We sent the wire transfer records to the feds. Their interest changed the temperature of everything. I sat back in my chair. For months of turmoil, for months of watching my life get attacked from every angle. And now I had proof that it was all manufactured. Caleb, I want to bury him. Not settle. Bury. That's the plan, little brother. That's the plan. Chloe's deposition was scheduled for the following February. Caleb prepped like it was D-Day. The deposition took place at Vanguard's attorney's office. Chloe arrived with her own lawyer, a nervous-looking guy Victor had hired for her. He kept checking his phone like he was expecting bad news. Victor himself wasn't allowed in the room. For the first hour, Chloe stuck to her story. Inappropriate comments, blocked doorway, unwanted attention, all delivered in a rehearsed monotone that didn't match actual trauma, too polished on some details, too vague on others. Then Caleb started asking about the documents. Ms. Chloe, Exhibit 14. Text from your uncle to you. 7:23 a.m. the morning of Mr. Ethan's termination, before he even arrived. Can you read the highlighted portion? She read it. The part about how I was going to refuse. The part about documenting the exit. The part about needing footage for wrongful termination defense. This was sent before Mr. Ethan was in the building. How did your uncle know he'd refuse a request that hadn't been made yet? I don't know. Her voice was smaller now. Exhibit 17. Text messages, Friday morning. Were you right? I don't know if I can do this. What if they find out? What were you afraid they might find out? Her lawyer objected a bunch. Caleb walked right through it. I need to take a break, Chloe said. During the break, her attorney pulled her aside. I found out later what he said, perjury is a felony. If you continue testifying to things contradicted by documentary evidence, you will go to prison. Your uncle cannot protect you from that. When Chloe came back, she looked different. Smaller. The confidence from my office was gone. Ms. Chloe, under oath, did Ethan make inappropriate comments to you on the morning of his termination? Long pause. No, barely audible. Could you repeat that for the record? No, he didn't say anything inappropriate. He didn't block the doorway. He didn't do anything wrong. He just said, "Congratulations on my new position." That was the whole conversation. Then why did you file a harassment complaint against him? Chloe started crying. Not dramatic sobbing, just tears sliding down her face. Because Uncle Victor told me I had to. He said I'd lose everything. The job, the apartment, the car. He pays for all of it. Every time I've messed up, he's fixed it. And then I owe him more. I didn't think it would go this far. Cool. She didn't think about what it meant for me. Just casually tried to destroy my life and didn't think about it. Did your uncle write the complaint for you? The lawyers wrote it. Their litigation counsel drafted the language. Uncle Victor told me the main points. I just signed it. Do you understand that filing a false police report is a crime in Nevada? I know, she mumbled. My lawyer explained. She wiped her face. If I cooperate fully, tell you everything, will that help me? Her attorney leaned over and whispered something. Chloe nodded. I want to cooperate with the investigation. I'll tell you everything if the DA will consider that when deciding about charges. The deposition continued for another 2 hours. By the end, Chloe had given up the complete timeline, coaching sessions with outside counsel, scripted responses, threats about cutting off her support. She wasn't innocent. She'd enjoyed the power at first. I'd seen it in my office. She knew what she was doing when she filed that report. Crying about it now doesn't erase that. After the deposition, Caleb filed motions that lit up the court docket, amended complaint adding fraud and civil conspiracy, request for sanctions against Vanguard's counsel, and a separate filing with the Pima County DA requesting investigation of Victor for witness tampering and conspiracy to file a false police report. The hearing was scheduled for April. Victor was about to have a very bad year. April was when everything accelerated. The hearing finally happened, and it went exactly as badly for Victor as Caleb had predicted. For the first hour, the judge seemed skeptical. She asked Caleb 3 times if we had direct evidence of coordination and noted that timing alone isn't proof. I watched their lawyers start to relax. Then Caleb introduced Chloe's deposition transcript and the text messages. The judge's expression changed. She reviewed the evidence from Chloe's deposition, the emails showing premeditation, the text messages showing coercion, the calendar entries showing coordinated preparation of a false statement with company counsel. She didn't just rule in our favor on the civil motions, she referred the entire matter to the district attorney's office for criminal investigation, using language in her ruling that called Victor's conduct a calculated scheme to destroy an innocent man's reputation for financial gain. But that wasn't the only problem Victor was facing. Vanguard Tech Solutions had been hemorrhaging money since my termination. Without my framework operating, their major clients had started jumping ship. The interim CTO they brought in was actually competent. He understood immediately what the lockout meant, but he couldn't fix it without admitting Victor had screwed up the licensing situation, and nobody wanted to be the guy who said that out loud. Cedar Creek Financial's cure notice from June had escalated to a formal breach claim by September, then full contract termination in October. 3 other enterprise clients followed by November. Frantic account managers, promises they couldn't keep, clients walking away. The board had been pressuring Victor for months, demanding solutions, demanding to know how a single employee's departure had crippled operations. In late March, they finally got their answers. Brenda had kept those detailed records. When the board started an internal investigation, she provided everything, every questionable expense, every attempt to circumvent the licensing lockout, every email where Victor had been warned about licensing terms and ignored it. The board called an emergency meeting for April 2nd. Brenda was there, taking notes as always, and shared the relevant portions with Caleb. Afterward, the board voted to place Victor on administrative leave pending the criminal investigation. They appointed an interim CEO, a woman named Evelyn, who'd been the COO and had apparently been documenting Victor's mismanagement for years. And they authorized immediate negotiations with Kelly Analytics LLC to resolve the licensing dispute. Caleb got the call the next morning. Ethan, he said, Vanguard's new leadership wants to talk. They're offering to settle the entire civil case and negotiate a new licensing agreement. They want this resolved before the next board meeting. What are they offering? $2.3 million settlement, $175,000 monthly licensing fee, written apology. I thought about it. What if we do something different? I'm listening. The company itself, Vanguard as an entity, they're hemorrhaging. Evelyn isn't my enemy. The board isn't my enemy. Victor is. And Chloe is. What if we separate them? Caleb leaned back. Go on. License deal with the company. Business transaction. They need my framework to survive. I need income. But the personal claims, the defamation, the conspiracy, the damage to my reputation, those stay on the table against Victor personally. Against Chloe personally. The company cooperates with our lawsuits against Victor and Chloe as part of the licensing deal. You want the company to turn on their own CEO. He's on administrative leave. He's facing criminal charges. He's a liability. Evelyn knows it. The board knows it. Why would they protect him when they could save themselves? Caleb was quiet for a long moment. Then he smiled. You clever genius. You want to get paid, clear your name, and still drag Victor through the courts. And Chloe? She filed a false report. She doesn't get to walk away clean just because she cried during her deposition. He slapped the table. I'll make some calls. The negotiation took 3 weeks. Evelyn was sharp. She understood exactly what we were offering and what we wanted. The company would survive. Victor would not. Here's what we landed on. First, the licensing deal. Kelly Analytics LLC licensed my framework back to Vanguard for $200,000 a month, 5-year term, auto-renew unless either side gives 12 months notice. Completely separate from any personal claims, just a business contract. They needed my software. I needed income. Done. Second, the reputational correction package. Vanguard issued a formal public statement saying the harassment allegations were unfounded and retracted by the complainant. They sent correction letters to every client, partner, and contact who'd been told about it, scrubbed any reference to the accusations from my personnel file and internal records, and agreed to cooperate fully with any legal proceedings against Victor or Chloe individually. Third, the part Victor didn't see coming. I kept all personal claims against Victor and Chloe: defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, civil conspiracy, tortious interference with business relationships. The company couldn't shield them anymore. As part of their governance cleanup, Vanguard agreed not to indemnify Victor for personal misconduct, so he was exposed. We signed the licensing agreement in May. The money started flowing, the public statement went out, and clients started getting correction letters. And then I sued Victor and Chloe personally for everything they'd done to me. The personal lawsuit against Victor was filed in June: defamation per se, civil conspiracy, intentional infliction of emotional distress, tortious interference with my professional relationships, fraud. We named Chloe as a co-defendant on most counts. Victor's criminal attorney had to coordinate with his civil attorney, which meant twice the legal fees and half the coherent strategy. The criminal case was proceeding separately. The DA had picked it up based on the judge's referral and Chloe's cooperation. But criminal proceedings don't stop civil lawsuits. And I wasn't waiting. Chloe's cooperation with prosecutors got her a deal: reduced charges, probation, no jail time in exchange for full testimony against Victor. But cooperation with the criminal case didn't protect her from my civil claim. She'd still defamed me. She'd still conspired. She'd still caused damage. Her tears and regret were her problem, not mine. The civil case against Victor went to trial the following spring. Evelyn provided company documents. Brenda provided logs. Chloe, subpoenaed as a witness, testified about the entire scheme: the internal emails, the coaching calls, the pressure from her uncle. Victor's lawyer tried to paint it as a family dispute gone wrong. Tried to minimize the damage. Tried to argue I'd been made whole by the licensing deal. Caleb destroyed that argument. My client's reputation was dragged through the mud for nearly a year. His marriage ended. His professional relationships were poisoned. His name was associated with predatory behavior in an industry where reputation is everything. The licensing agreement compensates Kelly Analytics LLC for business losses. It does nothing to address the personal devastation Mr. Victor deliberately inflicted on Ethan as a human being. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Verdict: guilty on all civil counts against Victor. $1.8 million in compensatory damages. $750,000 in punitive damages. The punitive number could have been higher, but Victor's assets had been bleeding from legal fees in the criminal case. Can't squeeze blood from a stone that's already been crushed. Chloe settled before her portion went to trial, $175,000. Everything she had, basically. She didn't fight it. Just signed the papers and disappeared. The criminal trial against Victor happened 3 months later. The evidence was overwhelming. Witness tampering. Conspiracy to file a false police report. Computer fraud for the reverse engineering attempt. Guilty on 5 of 7 counts. 14 months in prison, 5 years probation, asset seizure for restitution. He'll never work anywhere requiring a background check again. Blake? Quietly let go 8 months after Evelyn took over. Turns out when you actually audit someone's work instead of just taking their word for it, the credit stealing becomes obvious. No severance, no references. Last I heard, he was selling insurance in Flagstaff. Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. Brenda retired with a severance package Evelyn called substantial appreciation for years of dedicated documentation. She sent me a card. Told you Section 7.3 would matter. Underneath, she'd written, "The quiet ones always win in the end." Caleb got 5 referrals from the case. A lot of people in Tucson wanted a lawyer who could take down a CEO without destroying the company in the process. And Olivia. She showed up at my apartment that September looking tired, guilty, like someone carrying regret for over a year. "I was wrong," she said. "About everything. Should have believed you. Should have stood by you. I let fear make me stupid and hurt the person I was supposed to trust most. I let her in." We sat in my living room. 2 people who'd built a life together and watched it crumble. "I read all the court documents," she said. "Saw what he did, what she did. I made it worse by not being there." "You did." She flinched, didn't argue. "I'm not asking for forgiveness right now," she said, asking if there's any chance we could try again. I looked at her for a long moment. 7 years of memories. 7 years of what I thought was partnership. And when it mattered most, she bailed. Needed space to figure out if I was a monster. Moved 60 grand out of our account while I was fighting for my freedom. Honestly, I don't know if I can get past it. I understand. No, I don't think you do. Everyone else who abandoned me, they were coworkers, neighbors, casual friends. I can write them off. But you were my wife. You were supposed to know me better than anyone. And you looked at a manufactured accusation and thought, what? That it might be true? That I might be capable of that? She didn't answer. Couldn't. You drained our account for protection. You let your sister post that garbage on social media. You left me alone to fight the worst battle of my life because you couldn't handle the stress. I shook my head. I'm not sure what there is to try again with. I made a mistake. Yeah, you did. She left without saying anything else. Good. Here's the thing. She keeps texting, keeps trying, says she'll prove she's worth trusting. Part of me remembers what we had. Part of me knows people panic under pressure and make bad calls. But the other part of me remembers sitting alone in that 1-bedroom apartment, waiting to find out if I was going to be arrested for something I didn't do, while my wife was not there for me. That part of me says once someone shows you they'll run when things get hard, you should believe them. Am I being too stubborn? Should I give her another shot?